the One Piece world is very weird and wonderful. We draw inspiration from all mixtures of period. A 60s dress, a 90s t-shirt, a hat from the Victorian era.
They are absolutely manga accurate, but just bring them to life in the real life world a bit better.
This is mind-blowing. Look how beautiful this is.
The world of One Piece isn't really like anything else. Created by Eiichiro Oda back in 1996, it started as a manga, and decades later, it's become a global phenomenon. But bringing that to life in live action means solving a very specific problem. These characters weren't designed for reality. They were drawn.
There were many challenges because you are creating something from a flat surface into a 3D version that needs to work with action, harnesses, hair, makeup. It is the best feeling when an actor walks onto set and they look like they've busted out of the page of that manga. We had a lookbook that gives us a breakdown of everybody's looks for the season. Sometimes there are a few references. For example, Miss All Sunday, there is a Oda sketch of her and she has white boots and a white hat, but there's also another reference of her where she's got a purple hat and purple boots. And so we were able to get both of those looks in to the show, which was awesome. Miss All Sunday. Oh, when I saw this, I thought I had died and gone to cowgirl heaven. The hat that was drawn was really flat, but because there are these petal elements to her, I wanted to translate that into some of the elements of her costume. So with her hat, we hand printed the detailing and I wanted it to feel like cascading petals. Victor, who created this hat for me, he managed to nail it on the head, pun included, creating this coat. I absolutely love the detailings that Oda drew. And we originally embroidered the dots, but then once that came back, I thought, no, we needed to do studs because it just toughens it up because she is so badass.
Don't point those things at me. It's dangerous.
Her skirt and her corset, this was a bright green velvet that I loved the texture on because, again, I wanted to push the texture. My dyer, Donovan, managed to dye it to the most beautiful purple that makes you want to cry. And then we've got a lovely little hint of her blossom lining. And then her shoes, because of all the action, it needed to also work practically. So we created this very, very, very rock and roll vibe for her. This is her little cuff that she wears on her arm. There was quite a lot of research done in terms of what the symbol was, and it ended up being an N, which is obviously a little nod to her actual character, which is Nico Robin. Because they are cartoons, and cartoons don't usually change their wardrobe.
I'm sweating bullets here.
You do know you can take your coat off.
No way. It's part of my look.
We work very closely and take inspiration from the manga as well as the color walk.
Color walks are Oda's full-color illustration collections, spreads, covers, standalone artwork outside the main chapters, cozy slice-of-life scenes, surreal compositions, one-off looks. So when the Straw Hats walk into Whiskey Peak, those outfits aren't from one chapter. They're pulled from everywhere. 2-color spreads, a chapter cover, even Luffy's look traces back to a Shonen Jump cover from the year 2000, one of the 6 core looks he wears this season. And sometimes, the reference is tiny, like how Sanji's little garden look comes from this. Go ahead, zoom in, keep going, there. That's the reference.
This is our love. The reference for her literally is just a top half. So I decided to run with it and get in a great little 60s number, which again just leans to the craziness and excitement of what One Piece is all about. This is the latex look that I call for Nico Robin when she goes to see Zero in his office. The reference I was given was a tiny little clip. Again, it was just a top half, and it just looked so exquisite on her. She walked out onto that set and it really took my breath away. In terms of tone, look and feel for the world, we draw inspiration from all mixtures of period. That's what's so great and exciting and so creative about the show is that it just feels like it's all timelines that are just mushing into one and exploding into this exciting collaboration of creativity. This is Miss Monday's undercover nun costume. Since we were sort of in a cowboy world, I decided to make her have it out of corduroy because I thought a nun in a western town would have a corduroy outfit. We also have a reveal for her and we used magnets. She needs to be able to move and do lots of action, but she still has this very sexy element about her. These were all hand sculpted by my incredible jeweler, Karen, and we got the tone and color and size and shape just perfect, so it matches the manga perfectly. This is Miss Valentine. This was based off a little bit of a 50s shape, which just worked really well for Jazara's shape. She looked absolutely beautiful in this. Her little jacket, which my wonderful Andy made, we found a quilt, this beautiful quilt with some lovely texture, because that's where we get to have a lot of fun within the costumes of the show. Also, we hand quilted the trim with the Duchess satin. We had to create her shoes that were practical for stunt work as well as with her powers. So she was able to do all her flying around and crushing of bones. This is our wee Tashigi. I like to call her my little rebel Marine. We had to recreate her shirt from the manga, getting the correct color, tone, scale. I had a very specific idea of how I wanted her little jacket to look. I wanted it to have a bit of a hipster feel to it because she feels like a little bit of a hipster to me. Breakdown is incredibly important to me. I am obsessed with the breakdown department. I need them to have their hands on everything, unless it's obviously a very specific, needs to look very, very new. And they go at it with a bit of spraying, all their magical potions they put on it to give it that worn look. That's often my brief I give them. Please make it look like her old favorite.
You're late, petty officer.
Sorry, sir. I was just...
I don't care. You messed up the buttons on your jacket.
So this is Smoker. He is a biker dude. So I took that brief and I ran with it. I wanted him to look kind of sexy as so created a very traditional biker jacket look for him. The leather that we used was really flat and shiny, so we literally put it on gravel and we were walking all over it so that we could push in some texture. Again, I wanted it to look like it was his old favorite, and we had great collaboration with the props department in figuring out what was the best way to keep his cigars that were also practical, so we can have many jackets, but then we can take this piece and we can put it onto the multiple jackets that we have. With his glove, because he smokes a lot of cigars, I wanted some burns, like it's really worn in, and this is his cigar finger, so like a gun trigger finger, we cut out a piece of the glove so that he could have a better grip of his cigars. And then his lining, we managed to find this lining which just looks like smoke. I think you get a little flash of it every now and again. Even if it's not seen, we know it's there, and I love hiding little Easter eggs in costumes like that. So this is Nami's reverse mountain look, and this is where we got to blur the lines a wee bit from practicality to manga original. So in the manga, it is a vest, but because she has a lot of action and we were shooting in the dead of winter and we wanted to keep our dear Emily warm, we were able to add long sleeves to this look. She was already having to do all that action in a teeny tiny little skirt. She knew it was going to be cold, but like she said to me, she said, "This is for the fans. I want to get this as correct as possible." And she was really, really badass about it because it really was cold.
Oh, see, this is what I'm talking about.
So we created this apron for Sanji. I didn't want to just use a cotton apron because he works with all different types of foods.
I've never cooked a dinosaur before.
So we made it out of this beautiful pink leather that we had. This is the Doskoi Panda, which is from the manga, and this is very manga specific. It does actually, his apron does actually have that little nod to it.
Enchanting magic dance.
This is Miss Wednesday, aka Vivi, her Baroque works look. Again, I pushed in some texture. We dyed this fabric many times to get this perfect pistachio color, which just worked so well with the purple of the lining. And because I am obsessed with drag queens, I had to bring in a bit of a drag queen vibe. So I was allowed to add in a little bit of a feather. And also because she does so much movement and she's got her weapons, it just all works with the movement. These are her wee little shorts. And because she's a princess, I couldn't just give her a plain cotton short. So we found this very beautiful, delicate silver Duchess satin that we made for her. We were very specific about what shape we wanted, and we added a little flair for her. And then we added this little very subtle detail at the bottom with some piping, but the piping has a little bit of a quilted detailing to it. Okay, let me take you around and show you some more of our characters from the Little Garden episodes. We have our giants, Brogy and Dorry. We weighted their costumes down so that it would help with the slow movement to create the illusion of how a giant would move compared to scale to regular sized humans. So we actually created his costume with sand. So all his quilting is filled with sand to help with the weighting. All the accessories are made with bolts. There are bolts hidden in between the layers of the fabric, as well as this being created with very heavy rope. Their capes are also incredibly heavy. So the whole construction was very much done in mind with keeping it as heavy as possible for the poor actors. The helmet we had a lot of fun with. This is all being hand carved. In the manga, his helmet doesn't have this detailing, and we came up with this beautiful design which has a ship and a octopus. So it's all very relevant to the One Piece world. I call this the official One Piece camo. This design was drawn by Sensei Oda, and we managed to copy it. We got it printed to the T, so it is very manga specific. I didn't just want to put him in any old regular camo trousers that we could find. I wanted him to wear the very specific manga camo because it's such an important episode for his character. I don't wear camo, but I would wear this camo. This is our Incredible Zero. This was so much fun to make. In the manga, he has this black and orange waistcoat. I just had this thought of why not using crocodile texture. So we molded this texture and then painted it gold. It's a real puzzle because we had to keep track of each panel and what part of the molding each panel came from so we could make multiples, because we don't just ever make one costume, we make multiples. His beautiful shoes, shout out to Jitterbug. He used a faux crocodile and created this very, very, very badass boot. Oh, and Dr. Kureha. I love this outfit so much. When I saw the image on the manga, I knew that I had to make her top to toe in leather. She's just so badass. She is who I want to be when I'm all grown up. We pushed in the detail of her belt because the belt is just a very simply drawn belt. And then we also added a little cheeky fun lining, which Katie loved. Dalton, there is so much handwork in this costume. My poor hand stitcher was stitching for weeks, creating all this detailing. This is a combination between Sondor casting and then some magical spraying to get the metallic feel. And so they're nice and soft. So they're movable for shooting. Chess was, as a construction piece, the most challenging. This is his flashback look as well as his present day look. They were quite a challenge to create because of the weird and wonderful drawings that Sensei Oda created. He has a quiver and he has to be able to pull it back, but the hood needs to be able to still move with his face. So making sure that this worked with his action of his quiver actually made me quiver a few times. This is also a quilt that we found and we dyed and worked so well for what we needed because I needed him to have enough structure, but he needed to be soft enough that it still moved with his body. I love this costume so much. When I saw what this costume was, it blew my mind. She is our little crazy painter, and I saw her little cloud shirt and I became quite obsessed with how I wanted the clouds to look. There were many tests done, and I think I drove my team crazy because I was very specific on the shape, the size, the color. I didn't want them to be a perfectly uniformed cloud. I wanted to have a feel of a paint splodge and then nothing's quite perfect, like the lines are sort of blurred and overlapped, which just creates an element of more craziness of what she is. Her hat is exquisite. It's the most beautiful shape on her. And again, pushing in the texture, we found some cord and we dyed it up to get it to the specific color that matches the manga. And then the wonderful props department created her bag and her satchel with all her weird and wonderful bits that she has. I loved getting my costume paws on this costume. We had quite an interesting technical issue with how he is drawn because he wears a shirt, but he doesn't have a shirt collar. So to create the look of what this is, but still works within his shirt collar was quite a challenge, which we did eventually figure out. I made him some cufflinks, which was a little added detail. This beautiful crushed velvet, I had this idea where I just didn't want it to be a flat surface again, and I wanted it to be a stamped velvet. And then there is a scene where he has to strip down, so this was a little bit of fun for us because we couldn't have a naked Mark on set, so it was an opportunity to create some one-piece undies. And his hat, we collaborated with Amanda from the incredible hair and makeup department. Because of the shape of his wig, we needed to sculpt up his brim of his hat. And on that note, we should go and chat to her about that. I'm looking for Amanda, the incredible hair and makeup designer of One Piece.
Hi,
I bring you a hat.
A hat that fits this wig?
Exactly that.
Oh, wow.
Do you want to do the honors?
Here we
Since
go.
how many times did you have to put that on?
How many times did we have to put this on and figure out how it would fit exactly so that it wouldn't crush the hair when it comes off?
Well, you crushed it though, so.
You and your puns. Doing hair and makeup for this world is extremely challenging because we have had to break the boundaries of how we produce our wigs and how we do things. We've had to collaborate with other departments in a way that I've never had to collaborate before in building structures for these pieces. This wig in particular is built with a structure inside. It's not all just hair. And as you can see, the hat fits perfectly on and off. And, you know, to make it look real has been an amazing feat that my team has manufactured so brilliantly. Igaram was a massive feat, and this was one of the first wigs we put together, but we had to assemble it and disassemble it so many times to find the right recipe to make it all work so that we could actually have the guns firing inside, and also just getting the size right and the shape right on the actor. So this is the structure that is inside, which we had to then speak to props. They had to 3D print this for us, and we had to make 3 wigs, a stunt double, a hero, a flashback. We had to make 4 wigs and then the one with the guns. So the whole rig underneath here is all wires, and the wires connect to a rig which then makes each gun fire. They have LED lights on the inside which help it to throw the light onto the face so that it looks like they're firing. Everything is so planned to a T. So this wig in particular has a base on the inside, and the 3 is also 3D printed by the prosthetics team, and then we've wrapped it with hair And, we've put our own little macrame elastics around it because it was hard to see what it is in the manga. So we've tried to stay as close to the manga as possible, but we have also put our own spin on some of the things just to make it a little bit more ours.
Boom.
So we do a lot of research on each character, and if there are things we don't know, we actually get people to ask Oda so that we know what the inspiration is. It's like Miss Valentine. We did her first test, and then they came back to us and they said, oh, Oda's actually let us know that his inspiration for her was Twiggy. And so that just helped us create such a nice extra feeling for her, which took her a little bit further, I think, and so she became one of my favorite characters because of that. And so that's what we've done with our characters, is we've always tried to delve a little bit deeper and put an extra touch on them. For me, one of the most rewarding things about it is seeing the super fans is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life.
That is our ethos in the costume department. We want the fans to be happy. We want people to watch this and have that familiarity of the manga, because these are characters that people love so deeply. And I and my team, we really want to honor that.